Visit our sponsor, American Survival Wholesale, right now. Affordable, long-term, storable food. Christian, veteran-owned and operated. American Survival Wholesale provides food storage and survival products for you and your family. Get custom food packs, 3, 6, and 12 months. Pay-as-you-go food packs, survival products, organic foods, and a 15-minute consult free of charge. Food packs as low as 50 cents per serving, gluten and GMO free, based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. Part of all sales proceeds go to support our veterans, the Veteran Outreach Program and Bible Drive for those in need. Call American Survival Wholesale today at 818-720-0759. That's 818-720-0759. Because the world isn't getting any safer. That's American Survival Wholesale. Worship, restoration, revival. Call now or click the link below. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green, and you're tuning in to AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Today's date is Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016, and today's video, I want to talk about something that I think was passed off pretty nonchalantly over the weekend. The oracle of bailouts, Warren Buffett, warned subtly, and again nonchalantly, I don't think Americans tuned in, and if they did, I don't even think they understood what he said, basically warned that if interest rates stay at zero, or potentially turn negative as they've done in Europe, and probably more than likely here in the United States in the coming months, that he may just consider withdrawing his $60+ billion in cash assets that sits on the books and balance sheet of Berkshire Hathaway today, and taking it out of the banks, and then in turn depositing it in a vault that he owns, turning the key and throwing it away. What? Warren Buffett just warned of bank runs in the United States of America and potentially abroad, things like what we've seen in Greece. And most Americans, I don't think, tuned in. If they did, I don't even think they understood it.
A stronger yen is great news for a lot of U.S. companies that are looking to export. I mean, that's something that maybe we wouldn't have anticipated at this point, given the stance from the BOJ and our stance at the Fed.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I thought the Fed would have trouble a year ago in terms of raising rates, because a stronger dollar hurts the exporters, and a weaker dollar, which means a stronger yen or whatever it may be, that helps exports. There's no question about it. Like you said, that you realize how much you don't know when you see some of these cross currents. I mean, there's just a million of them.
But you must have spent a lot of time thinking about what central banks are doing around the globe, because it has a huge impact.
It's a fascinating movie to watch. I don't try to make money off the movie, but what we have seen in the last 7 years, I think very, very, very few people would have dreamt in 2009 that we would have this duration of low rates and have people still expecting low rates after the 7 years or so we're on this. No, it's a different world, and it's certainly a different world when you have a lot of money in euros, as we do, and you're better off putting it under your mattress than in a bank.
And there's nothing you can do about that with some of the reinsurance companies or the insurance companies, right?
There might be a few things we could do. I think Munich Re was talking about actually converting a lot of their short-term funds to actual currency and sticking them in a vault, but we haven't gotten there yet. There could be a point where you'd really want to start withdrawing currency. That would be an interesting point. If currency in a bank is worth less than currency in your hands or in a mattress, that could produce something in the way of behavior that nobody's ever anticipated.
You're talking about a potential run on the banks, essentially?
Well, if the deposits aren't doing anything there, and they charge you for having them there, I might contemplate.
You see, Warren Buffett has about $60 billion in cash right now on the books, of which he has deposited in financial institutions at 0.25% or less. He's not really earning any kind of rate of return. You see, if interest rates turn negative, let's say -2%, just to put it in layman terms, if you deposit $1 of your money in the bank, you only get 98 cents back in return. So what Warren Buffett is saying is if it doesn't make sense, because think about this for a minute, it's mind-blowing. If Warren Buffett just got 1% on his $60 billion. That's $600 million a year in interest. If he got 2, 3, 4%, that's billions of dollars in free cash flow, in interest payments alone. So if he can't get any kind of rate of return as his basic supply and demand in economics, this is exactly what anybody should do. He's just going to take his money out of the banks, it's called a bank run, and he's going to deposit it in a vault he owns, turn the key, lock the safe, and throw it away. Now, this is mind-blowing because you got to think for a minute, if Warren Buffett is going to do this, how does this affect you? We know Warren Buffett's going to be okay because he's a butt buddy of Barack Obama. He accepts the trillions of dollars of bailouts because he's a part of this big scam, this injection of funny money into the system through quantitative easing infinity and these policies. These people know what's coming. I was also watching a very interesting report from Ray Dalio, probably one of the most successful, wealthy billionaires you've never heard of. He's kind of the father of modern asset allocation. In fact, I did a great report on this myself on demand AMTV. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It's $4.95 a month or $49.95 a year, where I basically lay out a framework for an asset allocation to protect you and your family, to grow and keep your wealth over the long haul in the event as you're facing these types of economic crises, events, and collapses that we've experienced in 2008 and 2009, for example. But he was talking about the fact, this was earlier this year, in the January through March period, I think he was in Davos at the time, said that basically in this period of prolonged negative growth, where economies really aren't growing here in the States and around the world, that if this continues for some time, not only is there asymmetric risk to the downside, meaning there's more risk poised to the downside because of the low interest rate environment and elevated, inflated, artificially stock prices, but that eventually this would result in a Great Depression. Like what we experienced in the 1930s with the closure and bankruptcy of thousands of financial institutions, or what we just experienced in 2008, 2009 with the closure of roughly 300, I believe it was. It was limited because, again, they injected all that money from you into the hands of people like Warren Buffett.
Let's talk about monetary policy and the long-term debt cycle. There's a business cycle that we're used to, lasts 5 to 10 years, and then there's such a thing as a long-term debt cycle. And the problems at the end of a long-term debt cycle is it's more difficult for the Federal Reserve or central banks to ease monetary policy. Because when you hit zero, you can't lower interest rates anymore. When you have large spreads, in other words, higher expected returns of equities or bonds, and they do quantitative easing, the seller of those bonds receives cash, and they buy other financial assets. And that process pushes those financial asset prices up and lowers their expected return. Then there is not much spread. So, for example, we have about a 2% bond yield, cash being nothing. In Europe and in Japan, there is no spread. That means that monetary policy makes it more difficult to either have credit growth or monetary growth. That end of the long-term debt cycle is the issue that means that the risks are asymmetric on the downside because asset prices are comparatively high. At the same time, there's not an ability to ease. That asymmetric risk exists all around the world. So every country in the world needs an easier monetary policy. So that's that. As regards China, China is also dealing with the debt issue. I mean, a basic notion is you can't increase your debt faster than your income for long. And that means that they're going through an adjustment process, which means slower growth. And with slower growth, less inflation pressures. So we're now in a situation globally where China plays an important role on the rest of the world, and the rest of the world plays a role on China, and that is negative.
So if I were to decipher this, though, you ended on negative. To fully put it in a sentence, you think we're in a bad shape here?
I think the risks are asymmetric on the downside. That's why I said before that I think the next major move in Fed policy will be toward a quantitative easing, not toward a tightening.
Do you think it will be effective? I mean, you point out that there's not a lot that we can do with monetary policy unless you get a quantitative easing.
I think it's going to be much more difficult this next time. And I think that there's going to, it's pushing on a string. The term pushing on a string began in 1935. It's that challenge. That means that there's going to need to be fiscal policy with monetary policy. That's a risky set of circumstances because politically, fiscal policy is controversial. Do you tighten? Do you ease? So I think that's why talking about how the machine works is an important thing because that's apolitical.
But for an investor who's sitting here trying to take all of this in and say, okay, so now what do I do? What do I do about it? If it's so asymmetrically going the wrong direction, Can you even be long equities? We had Scott Minerd out here before who said that he got flat at the beginning of this year.
I think that we don't talk about the positions that we have in the markets for obvious reasons. And I think you can't, I think you have choices. What are your asset classes? Is it going to be cash? Is it going to be equities? So for the most investors, I think it's important to have really a balanced portfolio. That's why when we constructed this all-weather portfolio, it's a portfolio that in which the assets are supposed to balance each other. The problem last year is that almost all assets in the world went down in value. That can't go on too long without producing a depression. So that means that the central banks have got to ease monetary policy and do the QE.
Also, people like Steve Forbes, I'm sure you're very familiar with, warning that in the next decade, post-2008 and 2009, doesn't even include this, he's expecting two drops of 50% or more in the U.S. stock market. Shitting your pants yet? See, these people are warning of these massive imbalances in our economy, these massive economic events and crises in the not-too-distant future as a result of these policies. Warren Buffett is nonchalantly warning about taking all of his cash assets out of the bank and depositing it somewhere else. That is the very definition of a bank run. So what do you do? How do you combat that? How do you prepare? Again, I encourage you to watch the video I put out on demand. Asset allocation, how to keep and grow your wealth, how to protect it from these types of events, how to get and stay rich, how to get and stay wealthy, how to do all these things to have peace of mind so that you know when the next crisis hits, when the next 50% shock hits like it did in 2008 and 2009, that you're protected. Again, you can't predict future results. However, through an asset allocation model, as Ray Dalio suggests, you can do a whole heck of a lot. You know, keep in mind, if you lose 50% of your money, you need a 100% rate of return to break even. That's a huge move. Many Americans haven't recovered since 2008, 2009. So they experience another shock like they did in 2008, 2009. It's all over, if it's not already. But in addition to that, I didn't want to just talk about Warren Buffett and his huge warning. I also wanted to give you some powerful tools today. I wanted to talk about an acronym BIG that you may or may not have heard of before. Some speakers have talked about this in the past. BIG, a set of 3 steps that you can implement in your own lives to empower you personally and professionally. So here's my take on it. B stands for books. Read more books. In fact, most Americans, they say 98% of statistics are bullshit, but this is actually a real one. Most Americans read roughly 1 to 2 books maybe a year. That's it. They're consuming most of their education from miscellaneous sources. It's miscellaneous bullshit coming from the mainstream media boob tube, for example. And as a result, and in return, they're only getting miscellaneous bullshit knowledge impregnated into their mind. They're not reading enough. You know, one thing I do agree with Warren Buffett on, and I actually implement myself, is that he reads 400 or more pages a day. 400 or more pages a day. Something that I also do. Because he believes in educating himself first, finding answers in these books, researching things that other people have experienced that are experts in various areas, before he does anything else. In fact, most of life's questions, arguably all of them, are in books if you just open one up. People have had the same problems before, they found solutions. There's experts that have dedicated their entire life to a particular subject or topic. It's all in a book. And all you have to do is open it up and read. So books are so powerful. It's your education. It's how you invest in yourself. You also do it through seminars. You do it through events. You do it through networking. You do it through watching our videos on demand. The Mastery series with me, of which I've got 5 videos up right now. I'm giving you powerful models and systems that I've created for you. I wish people would have taught me this years ago. Invest in yourself first. Read. People ask me, well, Christopher, how do you find time to read? How do you possibly read 400 plus pages a day? Easy. I don't watch TV. I don't watch the bullshit mainstream media. I just read. And I'm so much smarter than the general population as a result of that. And I've accelerated my growth. I accelerate my success on a daily basis because of that. Because I do that one simple thing, big. Books. The first letter in that acronym. I. Letter number 2 stands for the individuals you hang around, the people that you associate with yourself. You know, your mom probably told you that you are who your friends are when you were growing up. You know, the 5 people in your quote-unquote inner circle that make up your personal network truly are who you are. So if you hang out with losers, I've got a newsflash for you, you're also a loser. If you hang out with people that are successful, I've got a second newsflash for you. You're actually successful as well. Congratulations. But not only do you want to hang out with people that are successful successful and on your same level, you also want to hang out with people that are far above the level that you want to grow into, that have more expertise than you, that are stronger than you, that are more successful, that are more adept in these certain areas than you, that are better than you, so that you grow towards that. You become them. You associate yourself with that success. In fact, I had firsthand knowledge of this when I was playing sports. I was a water polo player, and as a freshman, I remember getting thrown into the water and basically getting my ass kicked, manhandled, really hit right between the eyes and blood gushing down my face and going, shit, I need to get a lot stronger. That's what I learned that day. I wasn't as strong as I needed to be. And so what did I do? I actually went out and sought a coach. And I hired a coach, and I started lifting weights. 3 short years later, through that daily routine of consistency and taking those small steps, I became stronger. And as a byproduct of that, I became a Division I All-American in just 3 short years. I was literally one of the best water polo players in the country because I took massive action. And I associated myself with the right individuals, and I sought out people that were better than me, that had more experience than me, and I also sought out a coach. I'd like for you to think of me as your coach. Associate yourself with the right individuals. Those are at your level and at a higher level. People ask me, well, what should I do with my family members, Chris? Or maybe aren't on that level. Well, you can still hang out with the people that you love and care about. They might not be on your level, but you also need to seek out those people in your business, professional and personal life that are at your level or above and beyond of where you want to go, because you become those people eventually through association. G, the third letter in the acronym, stands for go big. Take massive action. How do you go big? How do you achieve that? I think there's this misconception. People are always focused on the outcome. They're focused on the big success, the Oscar moment, winning the championship or the title. But they don't see what it takes through the baby steps, the daily routine, and the small tasks that get you there. And that's what I mean by massive success or going big. Not only setting big goals for yourself, high-level goals, and viscerally writing them on paper. There's something about making that a reality, writing it viscerally with a pen and paper or on a chalkboard or something like that, or with a dry eraser and marker, setting those big goals, but also taking steps each and every day that breed that success. Just like I did with the coach at the time when I was playing sports, by lifting weights every single day, by eating right, watching my nutrition, working hard. I remember one thing my coach used to tell me was, patience, Christopher. It'll come. The same thing can be applied not just to sports, not just your personal life, but also in business. By taking those steps each and every day so you get stronger and you also grow. Setting the goal very, very high and putting it to paper. And the great thing about it is, even if you don't achieve that very high top-level goal that you set for yourself, even if you fall somewhere in between, you've still achieved a lot more success than you would if you just set a mediocre goal down here. Set massive goals, big goals, and then put it into action through your daily routine. You've probably heard before, you can't build Rome in a day. You can't, but over time you will, which leads to that Oscar moment, leads to that championship win, leads to that massive growth and eventual massive success. So refresh big, the acronym, the 3 letters: B, read more books, educate yourself, invest in yourself first. Seminars, networking, all of these things before you do anything else. Read 400 plus more pages a day, or as many as you can. Don't watch TV. That's a great place to find new time to read more books. Find the answers in books. Again, you can find almost anything that you need to know in a book, even spiritually. There's another great book out there I highly recommend. Individuals, associate yourself with the right people, not just at your level of success, but also higher, so that you grow into that success and you become those individuals and those people, and you reach that level and height of where you really truly want to be. G, the 3rd letter in the acronym, go big or go home, so to speak. Set big goals and take massive action through steps, daily steps in your routine. The small steps lead to big things. So the acronym BIG, and you've maybe heard some of this before, people have different take on it. It's really simple advice that very few people actually take, implement, most importantly, on a daily basis. You see, people say knowledge is power, but I believe that mastery of that knowledge is power, but more importantly, the execution and mastery of that knowledge is power. It's through the execution of it. It's through the action. It's through the BIG. Reading more books, associating yourself with the right individuals, setting high goals for yourself, and then taking those steps day by day and actually putting them into action that grows and breeds that massive success. You see, all this ties in together. The warnings of Warren Buffett of economic collapse and potential bank runs, Steve Forbes warning of 50% plus market moves in the next decade, something we need to plan for. Ray Dalio warning of us of a Great Depression because there's no real growth in the U.S. economy or abroad, and there's 0% negative interest rates. All this ties into not fear-mongering, but empowering yourself, educating yourself. Again, tune in to our on-demand channel. Watch my Mastery series. Hey, everybody. I'm Christopher Green, and you're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Today's date is Tuesday, April 26, 2016. In today's video, we're going to talk about asset allocation, the most important tool in your investment toolkit. How to get and stay rich. More importantly, how to get and stay wealthy. But even more important than that, how to have peace of mind when the next economic crash hits. With the 5 videos asset allocation model where I give you actionable advice and an actual sample portfolio that's mine to build on, where you can take notes and establish a community with AMTV Alternative Media Television. Implement the 3 letters of BIG into your own lives and make sure that you've got peace of mind when the next crisis hits. Know that you've prepared in advance and that nothing will stop you from achieving your dreams or reaching that level of success, either in your personal or business life. Again, it's all up to you, folks. You control your own destiny. You set the tone for that. You control your actions, your day-to-day routine that results in that eventual outcome. Your Oscar moment, your equivalent of that championship win. Take this advice and implement those 3 points in your life today. Start with a simple step and subscribe on demand at $4.95 a month or $49.95 a year. Join our underground community that makes up Alternative Media Television. Take the bull by the horns. Don't just consume this information and let it pass you by. Hear the things that Warren Buffett is telling us and warning us about, and then do nothing about it. Again, you don't want to be the guy that wasn't prepared or who hasn't prepared ahead of time when that next crisis hits. Imagine having the peace of mind when the market drops another 50% in the not too distant future, knowing you've already taken action and you already control your destiny. And in the meantime, you're achieving massive success personally and in business. And you're not just surviving during those crises, but you're thriving. Remember, it took 20 years post the Great Depression for the economy to recover to break even. It took only 2-ish after 2008 and 2009. Chances are that when the next crisis hits, it's going to take far longer than a simple, measly 2 or 3 years. You need to prepare now. Think optimistically. The ball is in your court, no one else's. Share this video out everywhere. Make it viral, hard-hitting it in your face. I'm Christopher Green. And click that link below to subscribe on demand. Do it today. Take one small step that will lead to massive change, massive action, and massive success in your life, determined by you. Peace.